Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Super Subs Podcast. Your host, Harish and Narvin here today, as usual. Um, and we're doing something slightly different, as we mentioned in our last episode. We're going to try to release two per week. The first episode just being a kind of Premier League recap of the weekend, just because, we talk about that for such a long part of the podcast. And then the second episode in the week will be kind of the main segment, roundup of some other games across other leagues, some games possibly, and then just games to watch for and predictions. And then some weeks, if we are unable to record um, two episodes, we'll combine everything into one and just have one longer episode like we have been. And then also, hopefully, when we do our Premier League recap, you get a more authentic kind of reaction and our thoughts just because it's recorded right after all the games. Um, so welcome to another episode. And as usual, you know how we start. We'll start with super sub of the week. And Narv, who's your super sub of the week? Let's choose non-Premier League players for this
Okay.
episode.
I'll let you go first because I think that last recording we had, I went first when we did just cover just the Premier League roundup. So I'll
Okay.
let you go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna choose as my super sub this week as Yildiz from Juventus. I actually had another player in mind, but I think I'll give him a shout out once we cover that game in particular. But um, I mean, Yildiz was terrific when he came on. He's ha he's had some question marks around him this year at Juve, so he actually started on the bench um, in this game against Inter. But as soon as he came on, he made an instant impact, scored a goal. He probably could have had a hat trick and won the game for Juve. He had one miss. He kind of skied, but um, I mean, you really saw the quality, and especially him being a right-footed player, and both his goals coming with his left weaker foot. Although his left foot's pretty good. Um,
But he always does tend to kind of look for that cut
yeah.
inside to
Um, and then just scoring with his left foot. But yeah, so he's my super sub. One thing he does need to work on though is his celebration. He needs to step that up if he wants to be a real uh
superstar.
superstar. Yeah, not just a super sub. But that's my super sub for this week.
And bear in mind, he's still 19, so ceiling's the limit for him.
Oh yeah, he definitely has Garnacho vibes where he wants to. He looks like he has that mentality where he wants to be like a superstar.
hmm
But yeah, I think that was my young player of the year when we did like those award predictions.
Um, I think my super sub will be Frankie De Jong, for
Nice.
Barcelona. I think it was just nice to see him kind of getting back on the field after injury because he's definitely a profile. I mean, a lot of the top teams in Europe would love. And when he came on, you can just see the control he brings, kind of sets the tempo for Barca. And I think it was Lewandowski's second goal. Where he had the header off the Balde cross, but that whole play kind of stemmed from De Jong having like a nice interplay and then pinging that ball out wide to Balde. So just the way he was able to come in and dictate the game, looking like he never left. He was my super sub.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. That was actually my second like backup pick for this week. So I mean, since we touched on De Jong, let's jump right into th that game as being one of the recaps we'll have for this week. Real Madrid Barca. Um, Barcelona ended up winning 4-0. It was kind of a tale of two halves, though, I'd say. All their goals coming in the second half, and they completely just dominated Real Madrid that second half. First half, you know, it seemed a little closer. Um,
Vinny had an unexpected miss. That was a sitter.
Yeah, he did. He had a couple. He had another one where he kind of just shanked the
Hmm.
shot.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess what were some of your biggest takeaways here? I know you were Hala Madrid, and you thought they would come off with the win. So, what do you think maybe didn't work, or what surprised you from this game?
I think I really just had two takeaways. Yeah, Hala Madrid. I mean, I like a lot of their players, Camavinga, Vinny, um, Valverde, but two takeaways. One was that second half defending was just a bit shambolic from Madrid. I know that we mentioned before um, when Carvajal was out, like that who's that brother that plays right back, fills in
Vasquez?
Vasquez. We thought he'd
Mhm.
be like an issue, a bit of a liability, and that was definitely exposed a bit, especially that second half. And then, but even as a unit, they were pretty shambolic defensively. And then second takeaway was just Mbappe. He was just, um, I don't know, the amount of he was offsides 8 times, and I mean, apart from one, all his offsides were just like unintelligent. Like I feel like all like strikers, that's like the basics. Is just knowing when you're on, how to make the run. When
Mhm.
you're the fastest player on the pitch, I have zero excuses for you to be offsides. And just looking back at I went back and looked at his offsides, and like they were quite embarrassing. So that, I mean, that just kind of held Real Madrid back on their attacks.
Yeah, he definitely is a player that likes to play on the last line. So I can get when you're relatively close, on an offside, like it's a shoulder or something. But yeah, to your point, he was clearly offsides. How many offsides did he have? Like eight or nine
Yeah, he had 8.
himself.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and he was looking down the entire line a few times too. So yeah, to your point, no excuses there for that quality. One surprise for me was coaching here. I thought Ancelotti did a really poor job, and I thought Hans Flick was the opposite. I thought he did a terrific job. So you mentioned De Jong as a super sub. I thought he was a key guy to bring in to the game for all the reasons that you listed. Um, First half, Barca dominated possession, but they weren't really going anywhere with that possession, like, and they weren't playing kind of like dangerous passes forward. It was a lot of side to side, but with De Jong, um, they were able to kind of make those surging passes. And then on the flip side, so that I mean that really changed the game. De Jong himself, who did he come in for? That Casado?
Casado. Hmm.
Yeah, even though Casado looked decent first half, a lot of
Yeah.
energy. But De Jong's quality is something different. And then Ancelotti, I thought he made his subs way too late. Um, we talked in the previous episode about our ideal Madrid lineup, and I thought Modric has to be in there. And you saw when Modric came in, like he created two or three chances instantly, like golden
Yeah.
chances. Um, and Ancelotti just made that change way too late. He left Bellingham in there, and that was one of Bellingham's poorer games I've seen in a Madrid shirt. Um,
No influence at all.
no,
Okay. I
I
don't know
thought
if it was their leggy, uh, or like riding that Champions League high. Um,
against Dortmund.
yeah, I don't know if that affected them. But yeah, I feel like Ancelotti usually always brings in like impact. Like
Hmm.
he always makes the right decisions, but to your point, this game um was a little bit on him as well.
Yeah, Arda Güler I thought would definitely come in and be able to make an impact over Bellingham. So I was surprised not to see him come in either. So I don't know. I definitely put some of this loss on Ancelotti, but I mean, shout out to Lewandowski, because I think he was kind of annoyed no one was really talking about him, it was all about Vinny and Mbappe coming into the game and Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, Lewandowski, he definitely should have had his hat trick. Missed a sitter, missed another good chance.
Dude,
Um,
he missed the two easiest chances.
yeah, the other finishes were quite impressive. Um, but yeah, and then that center back, young center back for Barca, I mean, he looked like a veteran, like holding that high line against Mbappe.
Hmm.
Um, and that his center back pairing, I don't know where he came from, but he's pretty impressive as well. That Martinez guy.
Yeah, he played for Athletic before,
Okay.
but yeah, he's a veteran. But to your point, do you think this high line, like they kind of got away with it this game? Like kind of got lucky?
I think so. I think a more intelligent uh striker, if they're matched up against a more intelligent striker, then it could have been more trouble. Because it was quite risky and it is quite high that they were playing. It's almost like Brighton vibes.
Yeah, I definitely think even if they replayed this game and the few calls that Mbappe was close and offsides, if those were, went the other way, game could have been completely different.
Mhm. And this was one of the first games also, not related to like the game itself, but one of the first times I've seen Ancelotti kind of rattled. Um, I think it was when Lamine Yamal scored, and then like all the youngsters were celebrating, and then everyone on the bench was celebrating too, and you could just see Ancelotti like talking to Hansi Flick, and then even after the game, he didn't shake his hand. So I was like, oh, that's very unlike Ancelotti. He's usually the most like class manager out there.
Hmm. Were there any other players that kind of stood out to you or
No, it's just question marks now. I don't know. If you're in Ancelotti's shoe, would you have subbed out Mbappe a lot sooner, or would you go into games now questioning like if you should start Mbappe just because we've seen like Mbappe is great off the left, but like striker, he can play that role, but that's not his best role, and you can see that they're just not gelling. So
uh yeah, I don't know. It just seems like they do need someone else because Vinny and Mbappe's playstyle is so similar. I do think something needs to be different. And that's where I think Arda Güler can come in and play right off of Mbappe and Vinny and kind of go like with the false nine or even put Bellingham as like a false striker. Because it's neither Mbappe or Vinny's strength to play out through the middle. Um, but you're kind of handicapped like you you only have one position for left mid, so it's unfortunate for Ancelotti. You're kind of forced to you're forced to fit both players into your starting lineup.
yeah, completely agree.
All right, so if we want to move next into another um, entertaining game, but much closer in competitiveness, let's go into the Inter Juve game. Um, so Juve, um, they actually took the lead here um, with Vlahovic scoring and then uh, Weah scoring as well. And then uh, Inter, they got two uh, penalty. Well, they got one from Zelensky. Then they had a nice um, kind of team goal with Mkhitaryan, and and then Zelensky got another penalty kick. So he made it 3-1. And then in the second half, Dumfries scored. And then, of course, Juve in the last 20 minutes of the game, they brought in Yildiz and he scored the two goals that equalized. Um, I'll go ahead and start here. A player that didn't show up on the stat sheet at all, but really impressed me and hasn't been impressive this entire season for Juve is Conceição. Um, you know, he- he's a hard player to kind of defend against. He is so quick and elusive. I think he's completed so many dribbles this season, just made defenders look silly. Even on that first goal, he got it was e or I'm sorry, maybe the second goal. Yeah, second goal. The one Weah scored, the way he was able to such easily with ease get past his defender and get the assist. And then he's also a player that he's a small player, but he does not back down in any challenges and definitely helps defend.
And I think he's a I might be mistaken, but he looks like a two-footed player.
Hmm. Yeah, he's comfortable with both his feet.
Because that fourth goal he set up, crossed it with his left, and that way assist, I think it was right-footed. Um, so yeah, he's a really hard player to mark. He's so shifty and change of direction so quick. I would say one player who kind of uh unlike him this game was Lautaro Martinez. I think he
Hmm.
wasted a few like really good opportunities, which on a normal day he would kind of put away with ease. Um, and then Jan Sommer, that I think it was the third goal. I think it could have been stopped. Um, I thought it was a little bit poor goalkeeping. Um,
He's had a few stinkers this season, especially for an experienced keeper.
hmm Because
On
he's
the
quite
other,
reliable.
yeah, on the other end for Juve though, the Gregorio, he had some huge stops, especially in the second half, and really, um, yeah, they were down 4-2, and who would have like with time coming down, like if they scored five, it definitely would have been over. But he really kept them in the game.
He had, yeah. I think one of the stops he had was on Martinez. Or
The
no, it
header.
was Barella. Yeah. He had one power shot by Barella that was a really good
Mm.
save. And then the header too. But I think that was the most Premier League and like all the other leagues this weekend. I think that was the most exciting of games.
Oh yeah, for sure. For a neutral.
Mhm.
Um, One player that I'm not a huge fan of that Juve seems to uh, really enjoy having in their lineup is Locatelli. I don't know really what he offers. I mean, he's sitting there as like a CDM type role, um, but I don't really know. He doesn't. He's not the best at any one thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like he's just like he's like an average player on the squad. I would think like they could have upgraded and like starting Thuram would be a better option for them in that midfield. Because he's a lot better ball carrier, and I think he's a bit more physical than
Hmm.
Locatelli as well. Um, but they seem to really like him. I mean, captain of the team. So,
Yeah, and that Cambiaso guy too, he's pretty good. I know he can play a little out wide, but he can also fit into that center mid. And he's definitely more dynamic than Locatelli. Um, I don't know, Locatelli, he's a taller player too, but seems to kind of lack physicality at times.
yeah, the way he plays kind of reminds me of like Jorginho at times. Like, doesn't really bring much. A lot of just, I mean, he keeps the ball, but it's a lot of just like sideways, backwards
Hmm.
passing. Um,
Yeah, I feel like that's one player that they can try to upgrade from. Uh,
and like we mentioned before, I mean, they got Douglas Luiz in the summer, so I don't know
hmm.
why not test him out um, instead of Locatelli. But
I guess they need some balance though with especially if they do decide to play like McKinney, considering how far up McKinney likes to go. Um, and then they seem to like that one player too who didn't play much last year, I think just due to injury. Nicolo Fagiolo,
Fagioli,
Fagioli,
the
yeah.
gambling addict.
Yeah. Oh, was that why? I thought he was
Yeah.
injured.
No, he had the betting scandal, and then he tried to snitch on Tonali. He was basically saying he was a gambling addict because Tonali showed him how to gamble and stuff, so he got hooked.
Oh, dude. Um, I guess with those players, you need some type of balance, but
Mhm.
even then, I feel like you could upgrade in terms of trying to get a more physical presence rather than Locatelli. Maybe Douglas Luiz does offer that too.
And I this was a very unlike Inter or Juve game just because Juve they've been one of the best defensively so far this season. So conceding four, this is kind of a one-off scenario. I think they have probably one of the best center backs in the league in Kalulu.
Yeah, because in the oh yeah, completely agree. Surprised Juve were able to poach him.
Hmm.
I don't know how much they were able to get him for, but still to like a rival club. But yeah, to your point, Juve only gave up one goal prior to that in eight
Hmm.
games,
Yeah,
which is insane. Um, and then I mean we have to give shout out to the Americans, McKinney with 2 assists, and then we gave a shout out to Tim Weah saying this was going to be the season he might break out. Scored a goal, looked really good. He's today too. They had a league game, um, and he scored another goal against Parma.
on fire.
Yeah. Um, so shout out to those two players. Continue to keep an eye on Weah. If we want to move on to another game that happened yesterday, Milan Napoli. I think we should probably just touch on that one as well. Um,
Why did Rafael Leao not? I'll let you give the quick game summary.
mhm.
But I'm just confused why Leao was on the bench. I wasn't aware of like any injury or anything.
Yeah, so just a quick recap. Napoli, they opened the scoring sheet. In the first 5 minutes, Lukaku scored a goal. Um, and then,
That was a grown man's goal.
oh yeah. And then right before half, I thought this could have been uh saved by Mike Mignon, but kind of went, I guess, like under his arm. I don't even know. It was a decent shot. Um, but yeah, Napoli ended up getting a second one right before half, and then
You want to give a attempt on the goal scorer?
um his name, let's see, Kivica Kvaratskhelia.
Close. Yes.
I,
Cavascrilia. Cavascrilia.
Cavastrelia.
It's something like
Where are you
that.
getting the L from, bro? He doesn't have an L in his name. I think it's like Kavarstika or something, or Kavastila.
Yeah, I always have a difficult
Kavastila.
time, so I just call him Bicha.
Yeah, Vicha. But yeah, I thought that could have been saved potentially. Um, but even then, Napoli ended up winning 2-0. Um, again, Milan dominated possession, but didn't create too many chances. Morata Classic had a goal, but it was called back for offsides.
It was a well-timed finish, but yeah, he
Hmm.
was offsides.
Yeah, I think that first goal we have to talk about Lukaku. That was a true striker's goal, you know. He made a nice run and then absolutely bodied what was it? Pavlovic?
And
Uh,
Pavlovich isn't even a small guy, so
no, he's a good defender, huge,
hmm
but absolutely bodied and then nice finish, cool finish.
I thought it was a little bit poor defending how much space they left for him to run behind.
Hmm.
But still, he still had a lot to do from there.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you think about McTominay? He's loving life at Napoli.
He's a bit of like the heartbeat of the team. A lot of their plays kind of run through him. I think Conte's I think Conte really was. happy with getting McTominay because he really knows how to utilize his strengths. Um, and McTominay is becoming like a really key player for Napoli.
He's becoming a fan favorite too. They already have like a chant for him and everything.
Yeah, I miss that man.
Yeah, box to box player. That midfield is shaping up pretty nice with him and Gilmore and Ngisa.
And they don't even have their best one out of those three. Lobotka, I think he's hurt for a little bit.
Yeah, he is. But even then, I think he might have a hard time squeezing into this team. I,
Nah,
I know he started originally, but like I don't know. Once Billy Gilmore is slept on, dude.
no, Lobotka would be a shoe-in.
Over Billy Gilmore,
Yeah.
dude. I don't know about that because I feel like McTominay and Gisa have to play,
hmm
but Billy Gilmore, dude.
I know he's Chelsea product, but nah.
Billy Gilmore is nice. I feel like he always goes under the radar a little, but he does the good things like well. His passing range is insane. He can
But
he can get out of trouble easy.
but it's Lobotka. Lobotka is too good.
Mm,
I think there's slight levels there.
because you would replace him as Gilmore.
hmm I have Ngisa, McTominay, and Lobotka.
Yeah, I'd probably have Billy Gilmore. So I don't know. Gilmore's had a good few games. The last two games he started.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll see if that continues. Yeah, but for Milan, Leao came in later. Pulisic has had a great year, but he came on a little later
He had the flu.
as well. Yeah, he was sick. But Leao, I'm not sure why he hasn't really been. You would think he'd be like the star man for Milan,
Oh
but
yeah.
um, I think it might just be his work rate. He
D
doesn't.
Defensively, he doesn't really track back
No,
really
and
easy.
his teammates were getting frustrated with him. He would lose the ball and just kind of walk back, and he was very uninterested. Even going forward, he seems kind of uninterested at times.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the manager that he's just kind of fallen out with. I think that was always the defensive aspect was always in his game, not tracking back.
Mhm.
Which I guess sometimes is fine just because of the production he does create offensively, but yeah, now it's just not looking good. Like a good environment for him right now.
Yeah, it seems like now Pulisic is the
Yeah.
kind of star man for them. Uh, and I really like their right mid as well. Chukwueze.
hmm
Um, he was at Villarreal before, and he was really nice in La Liga. And trying to see if, that would translate into Serie A, where defensively it's a little more structured. Um, but he's looked dangerous. He created a few chances this past game against Napoli too.
Yeah, and then your boy Loftus-Cheek, he's had a slower start to the year, but he's one player I think Milan really needs to get going for them to have a good year because he has the quality, but it's just he's
Hmm.
not showing it this year quite yet.
Yeah, I think this was the first game where he's actually looked decent.
hmm
But yeah, a lot of Chelsea talents in that game there. And then we got the one United. Well, I guess Lukaku is no, that's another Chelsea talent there. Um,
Was he Chelsea Academy?
no, but he played at Chelsea before.
No.
Claim him as a Chelsea product. So definitely much more than United killed his career, dude.
Yeah, we kill a lot of people's career as of late. As of late,
Uh,
managers and players. We'll get to the managers later on.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say let's talk about, the big news here from this week is Ten Hag. Before we jump into that, do you want to just do a quick touch on like the Ballon d'Or at all, or like
Yeah, we can talk
Do
about
that
the list
before?
and winners. Yeah, before hopping
Okay.
on.
Yeah, that works. So Narv, do you want to touch on the Ballon d'Or, I guess, list? Maybe a shock, any shocking?
So just to give a recap, the winner was I want to say surprisingly, I was a little surprised just because of the winner was supposed to be Vinny, but the winner was Rodri. Vinny finished second. Third was Bellingham. Fourth, surprisingly, fourth was Danny Carvajal.
Hmm.
Um, I think one player who is I found it a bit weird when I was looking at like the official 30-man list. Um, Seeing like Hummels and Dovbeck even into the list was I feel a bit disgraceful. But I feel like the Ballon d'Or, they're a little I don't know how you feel, but I feel like they're a bit hypocritical at times. They kind of want to put the weight a lot on international tournaments,
Hmm.
um, more than like international tournaments, which are like 7 games versus like an entire season. I feel like they put more weight on international some reason. Like Florian Wirtz, I thought was way too low. Um, Latorio Martinez, I think, got a bit robbed of a top four finish. I think he should have been. What were your thoughts on his finishing seven?
Martinez, yeah, I thought he was going to be um, on top of that list. I was really surprised to your point with Carvajal up there. Um, but going into it, I thought it would be Vinny for sure, number one, Rodri, and then Bellingham and Martinez, Lautaro Martinez after that. But yeah, I don't know. Ballon d'Or is like it definitely has shifted in terms of uh I feel like there was a lot more prestige in it back in the day. I don't know why.
Do you think do you think Ballon d'Or, obviously for a player, like it's a big deal, but like, do you think a Ballon d'Or like is as big of a deal now? Um, or like you shouldn't like care for it too much.
I think it's still important just because I mean it is you have to be in like a different category for it, but I don't know, it just feels like it's just so saturated though a little at the top. Um because back in the day, I'm not even trying to be like nostalgic or anything, but like back in the you had a clear tier of players that were just like generational ta type talents. Um, but if you just look at the Ballon d'Or rankings in the past few years, like even if Vinny won it, yeah, I think that would have been more fair. But you know, there aren't many other names that stick out that will be like generational type talent. And back in the day, you would see guys like, I mean, let alone Messi, Ronaldo, you'd have one of them winning it, the other one scoring 50 goals in peak La Liga in Champions League, like peak La Liga times, like it's quality has definitely gone down, but like the second place guy scoring 50 goals, like
Mhm.
nowadays if you score 50, you're auto like it just feels a little diluted nowadays at the top.
Were there uh were there any names that weren't on that 30 list that you were surprised that didn't make it?
Well, I didn't even look at the entire 30 list,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure where guys fell. I just saw kind of like the top. I think I just saw the top five was just all I kind of looked at.
Gotcha. 'Cause there were two players I was surprised that didn't even make the top 30. One was being Musiala, and then the other being Salah. I know Liverpool had a like somewhat of a stinker of a year, but I thought Salah was still quite good. So I was surprised he missed out. Um, and I think it was just weird seeing Holland so high when like Foden, I feel like Foden like won the pl Premier League Player of the Year, yet Holland finishing higher. So I'm just kind of confused on like how that happens. Um, and then what were your thoughts on the controversy of like Real Madrid not sending out anyone to the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah, I think that was a little um
Well, first of all, do you think it was like Vinny got robbed, or you think Rodri was
y-
deserving?
I wouldn't say robbed because Rodri definitely deserves some clout, like not clout, some praise, but I do think Vinny should have won the award just because Man City's team, they had a lot of other quality players on there. Rodri, of course, is a very, very important player, and you're seeing it now without him. That City are definitely, I mean, Kovacic has done really well, but Rodri definitely adds another element. But without Vinny, Real Madrid wouldn't have achieved what they did. Um, and I do think, to your point, this Ballon d'Or rankings, like they just put a little too much weighting on international games, which is just unfair considering um, it's just such a short number of games that you're putting so much weight on.
Hmm. Yeah,
And then even for Spain, if you look at that team, like you had Rodri was a key player, but you had other guys that in that tournament were amazing. Olmo, uh, Nico Williams. I mean, without those guys, Spain probably wouldn't have won it either.
for sure.
Yeah, I think one surprise from the award night was Emi Martinez winning the Best Keeper award. And I think that again goes to just like his international win.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, and then that controversy was just wild. Real Madrid just not sending anyone to rep them.
What did you think about that? Like,
Uh, I mean, if you think Vinny got robbed or not, um, like I don't think he got robbed either. I think he should have won, but Rodri was deserving. But whatever your thoughts are, I think that's just a little childish. Um,
hmm.
I don't think it's a good look for them, considering that they're like one of the most prestigious clubs in the world. That's just a bit of a bad look.
Yeah, and then another controversial one was Ancelotti winning the manager of the year. Um, because I was expecting for sure it was going to be Xavi Alonso that would win it.
Oh, I didn't even see. Yeah, I didn't even see who won the Manager of the Year. Oh, wow.
But I mean, considering like Leverkusen finally breaking their curse, and Bayern, they've been or Bayern Munich being such a dominant team in that German league, but then finally Leverkusen breaking their own curse and changing things up and just a historic run they were able to have. Uh, I thought for sure it would be Xabi Alonso.
I'm guessing he came like second.
Yeah, I'm not sure again. Yeah, when I saw Rodri win, I was like, I wasn't going to look at the list.
Hmm.
Um, and
There were some
then
shockers like Lookman finishing like I think 13th.
yeah, 13th best player in the world, right? Like that's a tough argument to make.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I want to see the Blonde Door. Probably won't happen anytime in the near future, but to be kind of fan voted somehow. I know.
I wonder who does the voting. Um, I know it's like, is it like players that have a say?
Yeah, that's definitely like a part of the scoring system.
Okay,
Players, the media, um, but fans don't have uh any say into it.
gotcha. Yeah, if fans had a say, it'd definitely be a game changer. I feel like it'd be a bit more fair.
But moving on to, I think, the biggest news this week, probably even bigger than Ballon d'Or, is Manchester United. I mean, one of the biggest clubs in the world, sacking Ten Hag. Um, I
Sad
guess
days.
sad days. Well, sad days for both of us because our predictions were wrong. I had Gary O'Neill being the first sacked, but I did give a shout out to Ten Hag being under fire, and I like Ten Hag at United. Just I can't say it because we never really picked up points against you somehow. But for a lot of teams, it was easy wins, and it's always funny just seeing how bad you guys are. But things might change now that he's gone. Um, so
It was sorry to cut you off real quick, but it was funny because that game versus West Ham, that game was basically the El Sacico. Like,
mhm. When it was over, actually, it was before that. When I saw Ten Hag say in an interview that he didn't count the Tottenham loss,
oh, because of Bruno's.
Bruno's, what type of, I said, this dude is a whack job. Um, well, I knew it was over before then, but um,
I knew it in my heart it was over after last year when we took I think it was a 4-0 beating against Palace. That's when I was like, he's kind of a dead man walking. Um,
yeah. Do you think like now because I know how it is as a as a fan, it's tough not to support your manager. Um, but now that he's gone, do you think you were biasly supporting him? Because I've been telling you for a long time and gave you many reasons, like tactically, like he just made really suspect decisions time after time. He, I mean, given all the resources now, like this is his team and he's made the team worse. Um, but like now taking a step back and like now that he's gone, you don't have to be as biased and like support him. Do you think he should have been like, was this fair? I guess is one. Do you think he should have been gone earlier? Is another question.
um, so after that 4-0 loss versus Palace, that's when I knew he might be getting the sacking last year. But then I thought it was fair to extend it until at least this season, give him a fresh contract after
But
that
why
FA
is
Cup
that?
final. Just because I think that first year he actually overachieved, finishing third, got the Carabao Cup as his first year. Um, on a
But do
squad that
you
he kind of inherited, like he
but
didn't even, it wasn't his squad technically yet.
but who cares about the Carabao Cup? A lot of
I do
teams,
as a fan, I do. First trophy after so long, like
but that's sad to be like striving for that or like that's a reason to keep because
that's sad. But I mean, ultimately, I mean that's his first year. That first year I think we had some hope getting like all I would have cared about that first year was getting a top four finish, um, in his first year,
Mhm.
especially the first season. He didn't have the squad that he wanted. Um,
Mhm.
so I thought top four, you're good. So he got third and a trophy. So that was a extra plus. Second year, he got the players he wanted. So I definitely was expecting more, another top four finish. And then at least the knockout rounds of Champions League. Um, Champions League was a disaster, partly because of Onana's mishaps. But then the league, we were so bad. So bad. Finished eighth. That's the worst ever finish. Um, and that first season, we saw some glimpses of the way he would play at Ajax. That second season was just terrible. So hard to watch. And so we did have quite a bit of injuries though, and a lot of drama. With the Ronaldo situation, Sancho situation is a lot of a headache, but still got a trophy at the end. So I thought give him just one more year, clean slate, no more drama, gets the players he needs. Like this one would be like the no excuse year. Um, but then we just got somehow worse. Um, with the players that he actually wanted. Um, so it's just been money down the drain. Um, we're closer to relegation than
Oh yeah.
uh top four. So I
But even
really,
that 1 year, sorry to cut you off,
mhm.
we have to go back to that first year he had. I mean, how much of it though was also Ronaldo being great? Because if you look at the number of points I forget what the statistic was, but he saved y'all a ton of points just himself. Um, so how much is it attributed to that? Even in the Champions League, he was kind of the guy getting you points. I don't know if you guys like won like he definitely scored like tying goals in the Champions League, but like I think he was like the only guy like really scoring for you guys. So how much of it was like in the first year really Ten Hag's philosophies and stuff versus because I don't really think it was like that in the first year. I think Ronaldo saved y'all a ton of points. Um, and then also like in terms of goals y'all scored, it was like one of the lower number of goals in the league. Y'all
um
were able to like squeak by. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like you could see his type of like footballing style implemented. You guys were like kind of just getting by.
No, I wouldn't say that first year. I think that first year we would see some like really nice play that was just like super fluid. Um, but I would definitely say that second year was awful. It was just like a lot of hopeful long balls just to Rashford. No build up plays, nothing.
Y'all were the 11th lowest scoring team
Yeah. I mean, this year we are like up there
in that
for
first year.
expected goals, but defense, we're shambolic defensively. So it's just hard because I know,
Whoa, this year you guys are up there for expected goals?
yeah,
No, we need to revisit that. I thought you guys were like mid-table, like 10th in terms
not.
of expected goals with
I'm
like
pretty sure.
15.
I think we're like six.
Okay, we'll have to fact check that one. Um, I thought it was mid-table, so we'll table that one. Get
Okay.
the stats on that.
Yeah, but I know when we had the Ollie sacking, unfortunate. I think that was one of the hardest sackings for me was Ollie, um, after Alex. But I think because you knew after Ollie, I've always just said I want Ten Hag. Like,
Hmm.
you're giving me so many options, but I was like just stubborn. I said no, no. Like I want Ten Hag because the way he made that Ajax team play, I mean, granted it was Dutch league, so dominant, but even the Champions League, I mean, they just ran Real Madrid off the park. They had so many good performances. Like it was so enjoyable to watch. So I was like, he's gonna bring so much enjoyment, but he never brought in his style of play.
Be yeah, because I think when it comes to that Ajax team, though, I don't think it necessarily came down to coaching. Um, because if you look at that Ajax squad, it definitely was a style that like Ajax is like as a club, they're accustomed to. And that Ajax, like, if you look at that squad, over half the players came from the Ajax Academy, and they like really grew up together, playing together. So I think that was just a very unique team, and it wasn't necessarily like Ten Hag himself, like his style and his coaching, I guess that um allowed them to be great like that. I think it was because a lot of those players, generational guys at that time, like D Lit and De Jong, and a lot of these guys playing together within the cat and growing up together in the academy, I think that was a huge difference maker and just was a little unique
I
situation.
think they had a lot more a bit more technically gifted players. Um,
Hmm.
when a reporter asked him to, like, are you gonna play your Ajax way? Um, he said it depends on what type of players I have, and then yeah, I mean, our ownership gave him the keys to spend on whoever he wanted, so
Hmm.
he threw so much money down the drain. So I think that's the hardest thing was just the way he was having Ajax play was so beautiful, and then it was a disaster here, and I had so much hope. Um,
I
so
I do feel like Ten Hag was missing that kind of mentality, or I don't know what you call it. Like some of the
charisma,
charisma. Thank you. He was missing that, and I think that's what Ollie had actually
I
was
loved
a lot of
Ollie.
charisma, and he was able to like bring the team together and like manage personalities. Even tactically, like I thought he was a guy that was more enjoyable to go like forward.
He was the
Um,
second best manager post Fergie that we've had.
After Mourinho,
Nah, I think Mourinho is after Oli. I would put
who's number one?
after Fergie. Oh, I think one is Oli.
Ollie and then Mourinho.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'd probably have to go with Mourinho. Um, Especially because Oli had Ronaldo too. I feel like Ronaldo really goes underrated. For what he did for his second stint at United. I think the media has a lot to do with it. That portrayed him as like this old man that's uh is just a drama king.
yeah.
Um,
Media did
but
him dirty. Yeah.
Ten Hag couldn't even manage him and like the stuff. Dude, Ronaldo lost a kid and Ten Hag thought he was lying and like stuff like that. I was like, yeah, Ten Hag, it's done for you, dude.
I think I think Ten Hag's gonna be a bit like not saying to the levels because we haven't seen it yet, but he could be like an Emery where he just can't manage a big club, but like a smaller club.
Hmm.
I mean, like a Bundesliga, like a I don't know, like Stuttgart, Leipzig type team. Like I think he could do very well, but I don't think he
Yeah.
just has the authority to do like a big club.
That's how I see it with when we hired Graham Potter. I thought it was kind of the same. I think he's
Yeah.
tactically a really good coach, but not able to handle like the big headlines, or like the bright lights.
It was just funny at the moment though, because when I found out the news that he got sacked, the I was on the way back from the gym and the song that was playing in the car was The Door by Teddy Swims. I was like, oh, this is painful.
Uh, I know you were a huge fan, but I think the rest,
I think we sacked him too late though. It was just a little too late.
yeah, that FA Cup really saved him. But a lot of other teams loved him too, just because he gave a chance to win. Um,
I thought he would get sacked after our Liverpool loss this year.
this year, yeah, I thought it should have been last. Like I've been saying it for a long time with Ten Hag, but
Because you've always said that you think on paper wise we have one of the best talents out there,
better teams,
but
yeah, exactly.
just it's the manager that's holding us back. So we'll
Hmm.
see.
So I guess speaking on that point, who would you want to have as your next manager? There is like kind of it's not official yet, but kind of a guy that's in the lead for the job. We'll touch on him at the end maybe,
Very
but
exciting.
yeah, let's
We'll
talk
see.
about maybe aside from him because he was actually on my list too for United,
Hmm.
even before the rumors. But before him, let's save him for the end because he'll probably get the job. But let's discuss like who maybe three other guys that um
Okay.
you would have wanted at United maybe.
Yeah, he was on my list, but he wasn't top three. He was, I think, like probably four or five. My first number one, and this is probably unrealistic. My top two were probably unrealistic. Number one was Julian Nagelsmann. Um,
Hmm.
he's just exciting. But he was gonna be one. I think we'd have to pay a lot of money for with the World Cup coming up.
Well,
Um,
even then, I don't know if you would leave that job. So yeah, but I get your point. Like you want them, but it's probably unrealistic.
mhm.
Yeah.
Second one, you might
Let's
laugh.
go a little more realistic. So just okay, maybe name those guys, even if they're super
Okay.
unrealistic, but then give me like a more realistic.
Number two on there was Diego Simeone. Um,
Mm.
and I think I don't know if for me it's just more of his personality. That's the type of manager I think we need. Um, someone with like the charisma, like definitely some personality. And I think Simeone, he's been known like for his defensive mindset, but we've seen like this year and last year now he's more attack minded. He would have he was like one of my ideal as well, but he again unrealistic. But then realistic wise, I think um it was either between De Zerbi or Thomas Frank. So
Ooh.
I did not want because I know last summer when the Ten Hag sacking rumors were happening, it was Southgate and Potter were like rumors, and I was like, no, absolutely not those two. So probably Thomas Frank or De Zerbi would have been the realistic.
Yeah, I think those are some pretty good shouts. I think Thomas Frank is another guy that brilliant manager, but can he do it at a big stage would be
Exactly.
my only concern. Um, especially like again, he doesn't have that charisma, I guess, that personality to coach like a United. Um, but I mean, he's really that was one guy. I mean, we talked about last episode um, on Sunday. Brentford, the way he's able to transform them into a team that's probably going to stay in the Premier League forever now. Um, and doing it with a squad, with like the smallest budget in the entire league, and then just the names you go through, he's transformed a lot of these guys and really had them committed to his system. Um,
And after all that drama, losing out one of your biggest superstars, Tony. So
and then he like went ahead and benched him too and said, "You're not playing. We
yeah,
can do it
exactly.
without you."
Hmm.
Yeah, he's got balls. But my um my two guys, I think Deserby's an interesting one. We'll have to come back to that one. My uh potential replacements is Garrett Southgate and yeah,
No,
number one.
for
So
real?
Manchester United, if you're listening, turn around. You still have time. Make it official. Garrett Southgate. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was
Um,
gonna say this man.
well, as a fan of seeing United do terrible, I would like to see Southgate. But as someone who wants the league to have another big, like wants to see United, be somewhat competitive again. Um, I think my number one, I think this is somewhat realistic, is Xabi Alonso.
You think
Um,
so?
because where is he going to go after Leverkusen?
Real Madrid.
You think Real? I don't know if Ancelotti's going to leave and if he's going to,
Ah, that's true. The Don.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like Ancelotti's going to be there for a while, but like Xabi Alonso, I feel like he could take a next step here soon while his stocks are high.
Bro, the Liverpool United rivalry would go to another level if that happened.
Yeah,
That
and then
would,
I think his second, like his ideal would be going back to Liverpool, but with what we've seen Slot do, I don't,
yeah, no
it's going to be
chance.
a while. And so I think Xabi Alonso, the way he was able to transform Leverkusen, um, trust a lot of like young guys too. That's one thing United's got uh looking good for them, I think, is actually their academy, their young players.
Our academy's been looking better than our transfer signings.
Yes, I mean, you mentioned a few names last time, because I've only really paid a Cheeto, but um, yeah, these guys are looking kind of nice. So I think Xabi Alonso trusting some of these young guys. Um, Another manager that I think is severely underrated is Xavi. Um,
Former Barca man?
yeah,
Interesting shout.
I think both those guys have the charisma and personality to manage United. Um, but another reason I like Xavi is again, I think you need to trust the young guys, which he did when he came to Barca. And Xavi was criminally underrated as a coach. People think he was shit, but honestly, he won the league with Barca, dude. Uh, yeah, he didn't do great in Champions League, but I mean,
Yeah, domestically, he was quite dominant.
yeah, and he transformed that Barca team because they were looking really poor before he got there. So I think he would have done well at United. Um,
Interesting shouts. Yeah.
should we talk about the guy that is probably getting the job?
Let's do it.
All right, what do you think? Do you want to let the people know?
Um, we are in talks, advanced talks with Rúben Amorim from Sporting FC. Um, so this one's quite exciting. He's a up and coming manager, but since we've been linked with him and kind of in the advanced stages, like I've been looking a lot deeper into like his history and a lot of his videos of like the way his teams play, and it is quite exciting if we're able to pull him off. And we're gonna be paying his like release clause. So he's had a lot of success since he started his managerial career. Um, it is in the Portuguese league, but I mean the way he's been dominating, especially this year, 9 games, they scored 30, only conceded two. Wild.
Yeah, the reason I like the De Zerbi shout was because I think his play style is very similar. Um, they both like to play that three in the back, and then but then on the build up, like they like to have the two center backs kind of like make it like a three with the goalkeeper, and then have their middle center back play like a holding mid. And I mean, De Zerbi did that a lot, and then playing like the double pivot, that was exactly what De Zerbi would do. Um, Three in the midfield, three up top. So, uh, I kind of like that De Zerbi shout.
Mhm.
Uh, I think Ruben, his English is really good too, Ruben. Um, but another reason I liked, if assuming you guys get him, another reason I like Ruben Amorim is his trust in young guys.
Yeah,
Um,
that was big.
that's huge, and I think having a coach like him, where I think everything needs to start from United's. Like there needs to be a whole new guy that can bring in like his philosophy and implement it starting with like the academy and see where you want to build from there. And I think the question is, can you see like Emerom, like his style of play, longer term, you know? Sorry,
Uh,
my chair just bugged out.
um, yeah, I could definitely see like some players who will flourish under his system. His like the 3-4-3, he likes playing those guys really high and wide.
hmm
And so I think in the three up front, he likes having one as the focal striker and then two as kind of like the inside playmakers. So I think
Inside
there's gonna
forwards.
inside forwards. I think there's gonna be some players that are gonna really flourish under, but then I think there might be some really big names that might be missing out of his like first team lineup.
Yeah, let's start from we should probably wrap this episode up here soon, but let's start
You
with
wanna just create our 11 starting 11 under him?
yeah, let's I was thinking about that. Or not necessarily starting 11, but let's name a player we think will flourish in the
Mhm.
back and then might not do as well in the back, midfield, and up top. So in the back,
Okay.
who do you think will flourish?
The Butcher, Licha.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's a must start in that
Mhm.
system. But I'll go someone different too. I think D Lit will. especially as a guy in the middle. I mean, De Ligt used to play like a holding mid. I mean, you can see his ball skills. Um, so he can kind of play like defensive hold slash center back on the
Mhm.
build up. Who do you think will not do too well? Or yeah.
I think as much as it pains me, I think Rashford might be missing out
No,
at
no,
the
no, from at the
Oh,
back.
sorry, sorry.
At the back,
At the
yeah.
back. I think
Or
Madrid,
someone else that would get a shout.
I think Dallo is gonna flourish.
Dallo? Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, I think Dallo because I think this year he's been a little like lackluster defensively, but going forward he's I think a threat, but he can help out coming back.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a player that's gonna be gone from United is Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire.
Hmm.
Um, they just uh, they're just not the type of profile I think that he's typically used to. So I think those two guys will probably won't see much game time.
Hmm.
All right, in the midfield, who do you see as flourishing or getting more playing time, and then who do you see as maybe struggling to get game time or may not really feature
Getting more play time.
or flourish?
I think just getting more play time. This might be like a very, very, very hot take. But the more I was like just looking into it, it might happen is Anthony.
Anthony.
I think he might be utilized almost as like a wing back role at times. Um, and then another player that I think will flourish will be Diallo for sure.
Hmm. S- I'll save Diallo. I'll talk about him. I think he'll actually struggle, um, because he definitely likes to come in much wider. Well, I guess that's the only system he's really played in. So I'm not sure if he can really thrive in that inside forward type role. Um, but I think a player that will thrive under him is Kobe Mainu, especially in the double pivot. Um,
Oh,
him and
how did I forget about Kobe?
yeah, I
Been
think
injured,
Kobe and Ugarte, I think the two of them together will be great in that double pivot.
especially with Ugarte having played under him before. He'll know the
Hmm.
system a bit. Hmm.
All right. And then at up top or, the inside forward roles,
Yeah.
who do you see as flourishing and then maybe struggling to get time?
I already mentioned the Diallo shout. I think he'll flourish in the inside forward. And then I think struggling with time, I think as much as it pains me, Rashford, I think might struggle with time because I think Hoyland will actually do quite well.
Yeah, I think Rashford as well will struggle. I said Diallo. I think someone that's going to get more playing time and may fit into a system is Mason Mount, especially in the inside forward type role. Um, that's a role he kind of played with at Chelsea and Tuchel. Um, and so he's got the ability to run up and down that channel. He's got the creativity, can carry the ball. So I think he fits exactly what he wants in that role.
Hmm.
Him and Garnacho, I think the two of them will be key for him. Um, yeah, Hoyland, he's a track star, but um, I think the issue with Ten Hag was he was forced to kind of play with his back to goal. So I think this one kind of suits him a little more.
I just hope that we don't go out and he doesn't bring in Victor Gyokeres into our squad.
Whoa, what? Why?
I'd rather have Hoyland flourish, and I don't know. I feel like
You don't think
Portuguese
that's a huge
strikers
upgrade?
don't. I don't know. I haven't really seen like Portuguese strikers like from the Portuguese league like flourish in the Premier League.
But he flourished in the championship even before he got to the Portuguese league. Because what he this is his second year only in the Portuguese league.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I
he's
mean,
put up quite a bit of numbers, but
when Brighton paid for him, and they definitely saw something in him, and they have one of the best recruiting team ever.
true.
So he came for. I still can't believe Brighton sold him for like 1 million, not even.
It'll be exciting to see who the third center back will be, though. So I think Lenny Euro, once he's back fit, I think he could slide in to that back three. Um, but if Ruben Amorim does bring anyone from Sporting, the one player I hope he brings is Osman Diamande. He's another young talent that I think will be a big player in the future.
I would like to see Victor Gorkias at United. I think he's insane.
I know you've been
Um,
really praising his shouts.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of him. Even when he was at the championship, I thought he would make a move to the Premier League, but I think he's built different. So I hope he comes to the Premier League. Um, but I think to your point about the third center back, I think until Euro, I think Lenny Euro, I know he hasn't played in high level competitions yet, but he's got that profile like you're saying. But before he comes back, I think Lindelof might get some time under him over
Yeah, that's a good shout. I think
Maguire
so.
and Johnny Evans.
Mhm.
Maybe he'll play Dallo back there. I'm not sure, but I think he would prefer Dallo in the wings. But
And I think one other forward attacker that's going to struggle under this new system, which is going to be quite unfortunate because of the money we literally just spent on him, is Josh Xerxes.
oh, agreed. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll have to adapt to kind of the inside forward role instead of
Mhm.
a true striker. Um, I think he would do better than Rashford though in that inside forward role.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I
It just
think
just doesn't
it's
fit
good.
Rashford.
Yeah, it's gonna be a harsh reality, but I think Rashford's time is quite, it's not looking well.
No. Um, but I mean, staying on United, let's move on to some games to watch this weekend. United Chelsea, big fixture for us this Sunday. Um,
New manager bounce, baby.
you, what's your prediction for this game?
Who's home? Is it at Old Trafford?
Old Trafford.
Well, we did just get the League Cup win today under Ruud van Nistelrooy, 1-1. Um, I think it's gonna be
First time scoring 5 goals against a English side since Ten Hag took over.
um I hope this is the first and last game of Ruud because I don't want his legendary status to drop. But I think it will be the way you guys are playing, but it's at Old Trafford. I think it's the way you guys are playing is just too good and we're a bit poor. Say 2-1, you guys.
Wow, you guys are going to score on us? Interesting. Yeah, I'll say we
You
win by
guys, you
two.
guys always leave some suspect at the back.
Yeah, we'll win by two. Not sure exactly the score. We'll win by two though. I think it will be comfortable. And then quickly just touching on some other games that everyone should watch this weekend. Sunday as well, Tottenham Villa in the morning. That'll be a fun game. And then on Saturday, Arsenal, they've been struggling. Um, Tough few games here. And Newcastle is somewhat of a tricky opponent they have on Saturday. Um,
No, Gabrielle probably. I
yeah, no
think.
Gabriel. Ben White slid in pretty well against Liverpool, so we'll see if that continues.
Mhm.
Um, is there any other games that kind of stick out this weekend for you
Uh,
across any league?
you mentioned the Liverpool Brighton, Ipswich Leicester. That would be a big relegation battle uh matchup there.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's it, Premier League wise.
Yeah, and then I think across other leagues, Dortmund, Leipzig play on Saturday as well. Um,
Friday is a
yeah,
big one for Bundesliga, Leverkusen, Stuttgart.
yeah, that's a big one. Dortmund's a team that's been kind of struggling in the Bundesliga this year. Last year they made it all the way to Champions League. I think it was kind of a lucky route, but um, we'll see if they can kind of bounce back. Leipzig's had a good start. They're tied first with Bayern Munich.
Hopefully Xavi Simons is healthy.
Yeah, I'm not sure the extent to his injury, but that's a quality player.
And then Sunday, Serie A big matchup, Atalanta versus Napoli.
Ooh,
So with that, thank you listeners for tuning in to another episode of Super Subs. I know this one was a lot of United talk, but hopefully with the new appointment, we'll be moving in the right direction. But until then, peace out.